All right. Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. And yes, you've seen the caption. The Wayne County Sheriff deputies are suspected of beating 34-year-old Kiara Williams on or about March the 9th through March the 11th. So much so that today she remains in critical condition at a hospital in Chapel Hill. And according to the family, she has not spoken since she was arrested on 3/9. Now, let me give you the backstory. But first, I want to show you our dear sister, Kiara Williams, 34 years old. There you see our beautiful black sister before this incident. And here's another picture of our sister, as well as this picture. You see our beautiful black sister and all of her beauty. And then you see this is her current condition right now. And my prayers go out to her, hopefully that she recovers from this incident. And her family reached out to me about last week, and I was able to get some of the documents. And I'm going to go over some of these documents with you to show you how I feel, along with the information that the family has given me, that this is directly at the hands of the Wayne County Sheriff Deputies Departments. Now, what happened? How did she get in their custody? On March 9th, it was said that she was at, or her cousin was at her house. There was some sort of domestic disturbance. In the midst of that domestic disturbance, the police were called. While the police were there, Kiara Williams, the victim of the police brutality, drove off in her cousin's car. Once again, I was not there. That is the story I've received. I don't know the where's, when's, hows. However, she drove off in her cousin's car from Country Lane Road here in Goldsboro. She ended up downtown on the corner of William and Ash Street at a Hardee's. That is when I guess she finally came to a stop. Now, keep in mind, the police were at the scene. So as soon as she drove off, the police got behind her. And she evidently continued to, I guess, the Hardee's, where she, finally decided to stop. And it was said there, allegedly, according to people who may have or may have not witnessed it, it was there that police, it was about 14 or 15 police, from my understanding, jumped out the car. It was said that they busted the window, and then they evidently drug Miss Williams out of the car. And it was alleged that she was possibly beaten at that time. Now, anybody knows, if you've seen any of these videos, any police chases, when the police get you after you've ran, their modus operandi is to beat you, right? And I'm going to show you some pictures of her so you'll see some of the bruises, and I'm actually show you a video of her talking, however, incoherently. Nevertheless, it was said that she was beaten on that day, and that was 1:55 a.m. So that's March the 9th. And she was taken into custody. Now, I'm going to read the list of charges that they charged her with from that incident, because as she was in jail, they concocted some more charges, which I feel they are covering up the assault on her and how she ended up in critical condition in a hospital in another city. So those charges that night, I'm reading from, police records. Those charges are DWI, driving left of center, felony to elude arrest, larceny of a motor vehicle, which was her cousin's, possession of a stolen motor vehicle, resisting public officer, reckless driving, speeding, failure to stop for stop sign, and flashing red light. 4 cases of that. And these charges were sworn out on, once again, March the 9th. March the 9th. That is the date of arrest. And the court date was March the 10th. Now that would be, the morning comes out and then the night comes again. Then the next day would be March the 10th. But she in jail during that time. She was in jail during that time, right? However, the next day, when her father came, to bail her out, they gave her all of those charges, right? They gave her all of those charges, and I think they reduced all of those charges, I would say, after the beating. And here's the reason why. Now, the next day, there was some more charges that were sworn out on her. And these charges are, and I'm reading from this, the next day, this was supposed to happen on the 10th. So these charges are felony assault on a detention sergeant or something. Another felony assault on a detention sergeant. Possessing a weapon by a prisoner. Assault with a deadly weapon on a government official. Misdemeanor escape from local jail. Assault on government official. Misdemeanor escape from local jail. So they give her a total of 7 more charges. And these charges were issued on the 11th, 2 days after she was arrested. And you see that these charges were supposed to happen on the 10th. And I'm going to read what they say that she did. Possession of a weapon. On or about the date of offense shown in the county named above, the defendant willfully, unlawfully, and feloniously did while in custody of the Wayne County Detention Center, a local confinement facility, possess a weapon capable of inflicting serious bodily injury or unalivement. And they said it was a hard plastic tube with metal tips on each end. First of all, how did she get that while she was in jail? Of course, when you go to jail, they strip you. So whatever it was clearly something that was already in the jail, right? Assault with a deadly weapon on a government official. On or about the date of offense shown in the county named above, the defendant unlawfully, willfully, and feloniously did assault Lieutenant Naren. That name is familiar. Let me tell you about that name. A government employee of Wayne County Detention Center with hard plastic tube with metal tips on each end, which is a deadly weapon, by raising the weapon as if to strike Lieutenant Naren. At the time of the assault, the employee was performing an official duty of their office or employment. Now, mind you, they said she never hit the officer. She, quote unquote, raised it allegedly. So that is where the assault on the officer comes from. Now, here's another one. Assault, detention, impurser, in injury, right? On or about the date of the offense shown, March the 10th, in the county named above, the defendant willfully, lawfully, and feloniously did assault Lieutenant Naren, again, who was employed at a detention facility operating under the county of Wayne, and inflict serious injury, sprains to both wrists. Oh, man. At the time of this offense, the employee was performing a duty of his employment, retrieving a deadly weapon from an inmate. Another assault. Here it is. On or about the date of the offense shown in the county named above, the defendant unlawfully, willfully, and feloniously did assault Officer Hines, who was employed at detention facility Wayne County Detention Center, operated under the jurisdiction of County of Wayne, and inflicts in serious injury, sprain to the left wrist. At the time of this offense, the employee was performing his duty of employment to retrieve a deadly weapon. What is the other one? Let me see. They said that she tried to escape from the jail. Now, all of these charges are, once again, in my opinion and from my experiences, charges to justify them beating her almost into a coma and incapacitated to this day. Misdemeanor escape. On or about the date of offense shown in the county named above, the defendant unlawfully and willfully did escape from lawful confinement. The defendant was in custody to pretrial release. How did she escape? They said she tried to crawl under the gate or something. Assault on a government official. Here it is again. On or about the date of offense shown in the county named above, defendant unlawfully and willfully did assault and strike Sergeant Anderson, a government officer of the Wayne County Detention Center, by kicking Sergeant Anderson multiple times. At the offense, the date of defense, the officer was discharging the following duty of that officer: removed the inmate from a holding cell. Now, Officer Nairn and Officer Hines have been named in a lawsuit from a few years back where an inmate was beaten and tased until he passed away. That is fact. You can look that up, and you can go back and watch the video. I think it's Wayne County Sheriff Deputies beat a man or whatever. Right? You can go back and look at it. I really poured all the documents, the law, the lawsuit and everything. So that's a fact. So Wayne County Sheriff Department has a culture of beating inmates, especially when they're combative. Now, here we have a female. They're trying to say that she lifted up something to strike the officer. She kicked an officer. All of those things may have happened, but they may have happened in the occurrence of her being assaulted. Because let me tell you something. I went to that same jail at 19, 20 years old. Yeah, I spit on an officer. I spit on them, right? Those two officers came in and were old white guys, so their punches really didn't hurt. But they was beating me so bad that one of the officers had to say, Dale Bridges, you know what I'm saying? I say his name, and I talked to his brother now. Shout out to my man, Mr. Bridges. You know who you are. He had to pull him off of me. But you know what the charge was? I got the charge of 2 assaults on government official. Why? For spitting on his tie. But they didn't say how they beat me afterwards. So this right here, I know this protocol. I know this setup. I know this narrative that we're going to put all of these charges on this young lady to say that, you know, she was assaulting us. But she's the one in the hospital not talking. And so how did she get to the hospital? Now, I spoke with her father. Shout out to Mr. Williams. And he said, well, the next day, he went up there and they had her in a video arraignment. And it was told to me that why didn't they bring her out? And they said, well, we can't bring her out like this. And when I show you the pictures, I can bet you assume what like this is. Nevertheless, they had a video arraignment. And my brother said, her father said, you know, when he was looking at them, they took him back and they had the video. And when he was looking at her, he couldn't really see her face. It was blurred. But also he said she didn't talk. She just stared out into space like she didn't know what was going on. And even looking at her signature on this, I have to talk with her family. This signature looks like somebody actually held her hand and wrote her signature on this paper. But nevertheless, when he wanted to get her out of jail, remind you, she got all of these charges, right? And all of the charges were eventually dropped so her father could bail her out of jail. And I think the bail was probably dropped to $1,000. Now, you heard the list of charges, all of the charges that I read. And if I'm not mistaken, look, here is the release order. So this is a release order right here. I don't know if y'all can see it, but this is a release order. So that means they let her out. Condition, and I think the bond, if I'm not mistaken, was $1,000 that her father had to pay, because they told him if he didn't come get her that day, then there's no telling where she would be. Now, what they're talking about is if an inmate is combative, they'll send them somewhere. But I don't think that was the case, because after, he bailed her out, they said, well, if you bail her out, you have to take her to Wayne Memorial Hospital to do a mental evaluation on her. A mental evaluation, they're saying, okay, well, something is wrong with her, right? So the father told me he never saw her after paying her bond. They had a sheriff waiting to transfer her after she was bonded out to, I guess, involuntary commit her for an assessment to Wayne. And when Wayne got her, Wayne Hospital, that's what I'm talking about. So when Wayne Hospital got her, they evidently saw her injuries and transferred her to UNC Chapel Hill, where she's been ever since. And that's almost a month ago. And according to the family, once again, she has not spoken. And so we want to know what happened in that jail and on the and even at her time of arrest, and even at the time of these so-called assaults that she inflicted on the officers. So the officers just stood there. They didn't do anything. How in the world did she get in this condition? Now, I'm going to show you a couple of photos. I'm not going to show all the photos that they sent me because, you know, some of them are graphic and YouTube, you know, they're kind of funny like that. But this is one. So as I thought, I had to add this quick little edit in because of YouTube's policies. I'm not going to be able to show the following pictures, so they're going to be censored. But just wait till later on in the video where you can actually see the young lady talking, and hopefully they'll let that part of the video slide. But back to the video. This is one. You see the bruises on her leg, right? Those are bruises, and these were taken Sunday. They were still there Sunday after her being there since March the 11th or 12th, right? This is another picture of her knee, right? And her sister zoomed in on the knee, and she said that looked like dog bites. That looked like dog bites on her knee. And even this right here, so on her foot, that looks like it maybe could be a dog bite as well. And there's some other photos of, you know, her leg and that up close. That's what I think she said. It looks like dog bites, and, you know, some more bruising. And there are other photos, but I just wanted to show those to, you know, let you see that this is 25 days later. And those pictures were taken Sunday or Saturday. And so this lady, and let me show you this picture again. I'm going to play you a video that her sister sent me when she went up there. This is her condition now. How did she go from this right here, this right here, unto this right here within a matter of days? Like, her father showed me a text where she had actually texted him the day before that and telling him, you know, that, you know, she loved him, and, you know, and telling her some things. Like, she was very coherent. You can tell that she had all the sense about her. But when I play this video, you can clearly see that something is definitely wrong with her. And when we went to the courthouse today to get these, I had to get these from another source. We went to the courthouse today. Normally I go in there, I give them the case number, they come back with the file. I went in there, I gave the man the case number. I'm talking about, he walked back and forth. He talked to this person and that person, this person and that person, this person and that person. I'm talking about literally for about 5 or 10 minutes. Then he comes up and said, well, yeah, we don't have this file. It's being scanned into our newer computer system. Right. So I gave her the case number for these other charges. And he said the same thing. That never has happened. Now, mind you, they are switching their protocol, but that's something that I have never seen happen. Now, also, we tried to get with the court-appointed lawyer today. Now, the court-appointed lawyers they haven't talked to her. Of course, that lady is named Hannah Hayes. I'll put it out there. They haven't definitely talked to her. You know, we called her and wanted to know, okay, well, look, what happened? What do you know of what happened to her? Because she's incapacitated, right? And then the family's talking to them, and the family got worried about, well, we can't talk to you because, you know, we don't have any authorization from her. And I'm like, she can't talk. You know, you can't give us any information. if she can't talk, like we're her family, you can't tell us about the case. Then they say, well, the only way we can talk to you is if, her father has power of attorney, right? Anybody know anything about power of attorney? A person has to sign that over. How can she sign it over when she is like this? I'm just going to play the video for you.
Very. After there's the know you've been broke, know you've been suffering, gone through tough times, but you know you've been home. Hey, honey.
And so you see clearly from that video that that young lady is not herself. According to the family, that she doesn't even recognize her father. And you can see from that video, and I won't play it again, you can rewind it if you want to, she is not coherent. Something is wrong with her. And actually, if you look on the side of her head looks a little bashed in. Now, I haven't seen her before. That's my first time ever seeing her. So I don't know if that's a scar like mine. Everybody talk about my edge up, but that's brain surgery. But, from my understanding, from the way I look, it's bashed in. So I've been talking and conversing with the family, trying to get some answers. And they have covered this situation up. The Wayne County Sheriff Department have covered this situation up. And so I'm asking, people who, want to get involved and, to call up there and ask about this or give us some advice, because it is obvious that they hid this lady. They hid this lady and then they released her to her father after they know they've done major damage. They released her to her father, but they said the only way they would release her is if he signed papers to have her involuntary committed, right? Which they knew once she got to Wayne Memorial, that Wayne Memorial was going to see how bad she was injured and transfer her to a better medical facility, in which they went to see her. And then, of course, she wasn't talking. She hasn't been talking, I think, and that's, I guess, the best they got out of her since. And so I know these tactics. I know what they do. And once again, those detectives, Naron and Hines, have been already named in a lawsuit where a disabled veteran, a mentally ill veteran, was tased and tortured until he lost his life. That is documented. And several officers, one of the officers actually called me about it. Said, hey, man, it's bigger than that, man. There were some other people on the shift, too, and they didn't get charged. He was crying because nobody else got charged. He didn't say he didn't do it. He was crying because nobody else gets charged, and his name was in the report that I did. And so, I know this department. I know how it gets down, man. And once they got you behind those doors, I've experienced it firsthand. I've seen it secondhand, and I've heard about it thirdhand. So this ain't nothing that I'm telling you that I don't know about. So this lady was definitely beaten. Let's just look at her. Look at the way, and they're trying to say, well, she has some condition called fire on the brain now, where some bacteria is eating her brain. No. So she just automatically got that on March the 9th. Come on. So hopefully her family will be able to get the medical records, the my charts, which shows her condition when she entered the Wayne County jail. Hopefully they will be able to do so. So we'll be able to prove that, something nefarious happened to our dear sister. And so, there's a lot more to this. I'm probably going to do a follow-up story because I didn't even have all the facts straight. I just know what I've been talked about today. And I know just looking at this, that this is fraudulent. This is a cover-up. If you look at any of these cases, even when, they beat up black men, what is the first thing they do? They put charges on them. So, no, it wasn't us. It was him. He was assaulting us. So we're just asking, anybody that could, not even asking, I'm just putting it out there so more information can come out, so more people can know about this, so anybody who knows what really happened to this lady may come forth anonymously, overtly, whatever the case may be. But I've spoken to the father and the mother, stepmother, and the sister, and they are very concerned about this. When they first reached out to me, I was like, well, okay, but I didn't know the seriousness of the matter. Now that I seen those pictures, now that I seen her condition, and now that I see that this actually happened, that they arrested this girl with all of these charges, then drop, I think, drop her bond to $1,000 to get her out of their vicinity, and then take her to Wayne and pass the buck to Wayne, and then Wayne passes the buck to Chapel Hill. Now she's way up there. Now nobody knows what happened. Nah, we're calling for an investigation into this situation. And if I had to go to Larry Pierce, or, and I know these guys, man, they not who they pose to be. Just say that, so I know they're going to try to cover up. They're going to justify. They're going to do this. They're going to, but you're on notice now that we know about Kiara Williams. Just let's say that you don't know. Nobody knows about this until today, but people are going to know about it tonight. And tonight, when I speak with the Goldsboro City Council, they're going to know about it too. So y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings. Y'all have a blessed day.